it all comes together in Wicked for Good.
Wicked Part 2 is just around the corner, and fans of the musical know there's a lot to unpack in this movie. Wicked Part 1 ended on a massive cliffhanger. The same cliffhanger the stage version stops on for intermission. Except our intermission wasn't 20 minutes, it was a whole year. The trailers for Wicked for Good have given us a pretty good idea of what we can expect for Jon Chu's sequel, but there's actually a ton of hidden meaning behind the film's title, and it actually gets pretty dark. In this video, we'll dive into the real meaning behind Wicked for Good's title, and by the end of the video, you'll realize that Elphaba and Glinda's character arcs are so much deeper than we think. Plus, I'll share with you a special Easter egg from the musical's composer, Stephen Schwartz, that proves the two leading ladies really will change for good by the end of the second film. Warning, for those who have not seen the stage version of Wicked already, this video has massive spoilers for Wicked for Good. Watch at your own risk. Before we dive into Wicked for Good, let's review where we left The Witches of Oz last. After all, it's been a year since we first witnessed Elphaba's dramatic introduction as the Wicked Witch of the West in Defying Gravity, so I think we could all use a bit of a refresher. We'll get into what served as the inspiration for the movie later on, but just know that those who have seen the musical version will be able to predict what happens in Wicked for Good, as it is primarily based on that. However, the film version does expand in a few areas, leaving us with 2 hours and 40 minutes of content for Part 1 alone, whereas the stage version is approximately 3 hours total. Anyways, Wicked Part 1 tells the story of how Glinda and Elphaba came to be Glinda the Good and the Wicked Witch of the West, the untold story of the Witches of Oz. Elphaba and Glinda were roommates at school and couldn't be more different. Their only similarity? They wanted to be great. But while that was once the thing that made them similar, it would later be the very thing to break them apart. That and their love for Fiyero, of course. As Elphaba hones her powers as a witch at Shiz University, Glinda continues to grow closer to Fiyero. Meanwhile, animals around Oz who serve as teachers, parents, and valuable members of society are being silenced, encaged, and having their jobs stripped away from them. Elphaba, in particular, finds a real passion for speaking out as an advocate for the animal population after her professor/friend, Dr. Dillamond, is escorted out of Shiz during a class lecture. Interestingly enough, Elphaba's powers really start to strengthen when she finds herself standing up for the animals. In the third act of the movie, Elphaba is invited to the Emerald City to meet with the wonderful Wizard of Oz, where we also get a glorious cameo of Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, the actresses who originated the roles of the two lead characters on Broadway over 20 years ago. However, all is not as it seems. Taking a look behind the curtain reveals that the wizard, alongside Madame Morrible, Elphaba's mentor, are the ones spearheading the prejudice against the animal population. Using Elphaba's powers and her mysterious ability to read the most powerful spellbook of all, the Grimoire, the wizard hoped to cage all animals and use them as his own personal guards and servants. Against Glinda's wishes, Elphaba denies them help, steals the Grimoire, and flees the Emerald City, now demonized as the Wicked Witch by Madame Morrible. And that's where Part 1 concludes. Did you expect this ending, or were you surprised when the credits rolled? For those of us that have seen and love the musical, we know exactly what's coming in Wicked Part 2. Of course, Jon Chu most likely took some liberties with the story he was given, but based on the trailers and posters, it seems that he's most likely stuck pretty close to the stage version story. So, Wicked for Good, what does the title tell us? As we've heard in the trailer, obviously the song For Good is the main inspiration. The song is performed near the end of the musical. Glinda and Elphaba are living completely different lives. Elphaba is now seen by the entire land of Oz as the Wicked Witch of the West, completely irredeemable, while Glinda, on the other hand, is now Glinda the Good, a public figure and highly influential person. Now, Elphaba's ability to help the animals is almost non-existent. She can't make a difference if she's seen as a villain. She's limited. While the end of Act 1 was her pinnacle, finally free and full of possibilities, the end of Act 2 finds her at her lowest point. Despite her great power and strength, she is completely unable to stand for her cause, tied down by the perceptions of those around her. So, who has the power to continue her advocacy for the animals of Oz? Glinda. Elphaba, realizing this, surrenders the Grimoire to Glinda as a final farewell. Finally, they admit to each other and to themselves how much their friendship has inspired them and pushed them to be better. Elphaba realizes that Glinda's need to be adored may actually allow her to be the advocate for the animals that Elphaba never could be. Glinda, on the other hand, lost herself in the process of fitting in. Even her fiancé, Fiyero, left Glinda's manufactured lifestyle for Elphaba's unmasked, unfiltered freedom. In the end, Glinda and Elphaba realize that maybe their goals aren't so different, and that because of each other, they have truly been changed for good. But that's not the song's only meaning. They have been changed for the better, but their future is forever changed. Elphaba fakes her death and flees Oz with Fiyero, who live happily together in hiding, forever separated from everything they once knew. Glinda, on the other hand, believes that both Elphaba and Fiyero are dead. At least, that's what most fans speculate. There is some debate over whether or not Glinda truly believes they're dead, that Elphaba was melted by Dorothy's bucket of water, or if she is keeping their existence a secret for their safety. But one thing is for sure, she will never see them again. Do you have any thoughts on this theory? Does Glinda truly believe her best friends are dead, or is she merely pretending? The final point I want to make about the song For Good is the characters' realization that they aren't necessarily as good as they once thought they were. Remember how I mentioned earlier on that one of the few similarities early on that Elphaba and Glinda have is their desire to be viewed as great. I mean, Elphaba's I Want song in the beginning of the movie, The Wizard and I, which is my favorite, explicitly tells us that she wants to be hand in hand with the wizard, held in such high esteem as Oz's favorite team. She may not admit it, but she wants to be accepted. And of course, we know this about Glinda too. But in their pursuit of their own ideas of being great, they both committed acts they swore they never would. Elphaba, trapped by the public's view of her, literally has to surrender her mission, give up her role of advocacy to someone who is more favorable in the eyes of the public. Glinda, on the other hand, was rejected by the one she cared for most, and criticized by Madame Morrible for not being the perfect puppet she and the wizard wanted her to be. By the end of the story, Elphaba and Glinda have made mistakes, but they've also found themselves to be changed for good through their friendship. They are interchangeably wicked and good at the same time, in a way they never once thought possible. The musical's composer, Schwartz, even symbolizes this in the score. Throughout the musical, Elphaba is given the lower harmony, while Glinda is given the higher one, whenever the two sing together, in all songs except in For Good. The harmonies switch, representing the switch the two characters have made along the way. What other Easter eggs do you notice in the film's soundtrack? Don't get me wrong, Wicked Part 1 dove into some seriously deep topics, but I think new fans of the movie are going to be surprised by how much darker this story can get, and I haven't even discussed the book version. Word of advice, those under 18 should most definitely steer away. For Good is already stuck in our heads thanks to the recent trailers for the sequel movie, but it's so much more than just a catchy ballad. It's the lesson behind the story, and it reveals just how similar our two main characters really are, despite their outward appearances. What did you think of this Wicked analysis? For fans of the musical, which song are you most excited to see on the big screen? Do you think Jon Chu has made any changes to the original story? Will we get any more cameos from the original Broadway cast? I sure hope so. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more theories just like these. Thanks again for watching ScreenRant, and I'll see you in the next one.